Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Today is a great day. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here is a quote. Nimble, a guardian stays committed to the customer while balancing what is most important: God, family, life, and work. Our guest today is Nimble, in that order: God, family, life, and work. I admire them for their stewardship. I hope you listen clearly with intention. They've been a staple on our show for some time. Very important person to Culture Matters. Decided to found Guardian Roofing and Siding ways back and steward their values in each customer interaction on the good and the bad days. And I challenge you to listen intently to the inversion. We're going to have a thought experiment around how not to live this value and not to be nimble. Our guest, Robert Frehafer. Thanks for coming.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Once again, I appreciate the introductions. I was thinking one thing I thought when we were talking about this inversion, like to just have the whole show backwards and just say all the opposite things that we would
Like,
or maybe some of the things that we think, rather than that we control. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
do you mean like a cruel introduction?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And then like a retort back that's like, you're a piece of garbage. So, but that probably wouldn't be that may be misunderstood at some level. So but thanks. We're here. We're at the last Guardian value, right? I think there was, this is the 16th, even though some of them we never got through, the values inverted or the other way. So I think it turned out to be like 19 or 20 episodes about the values. So yeah, it's exciting to be, for me, it's exciting to be, not to be done and out of it, but from a accomplishment standpoint, from a, we've spent some time. We made a commitment to get something done. And not that we're done yet, but we're almost there, right? Of early mornings. Sometimes this was early we were meeting. Today it's only 7 a.m. It's like halfway through the day, I guess. So
how does that feel to have an aim, and to accomplish it for you?
So the feeling, I don't know how to describe, like fullness, completeness, fulfill, like it just feel good. That's one, but like I'm a man of my word. So whatever great descriptive word would be that in one word compiled. Yeah, so I just really generally overall. Now, taking that into contrast of so many things, especially in my past, that I would start and then not complete. That is because I was excited and I'm a talker, so I would share with everybody. I'm doing this. Next time I see you, like, oh, how's that? Change directions, right? Oh, I didn't do it, or just not talk about it, right? Or I would know, no good, did not get done. So the inverse of that is confidence. Yeah, just probably a bunch of good descriptor words like that. It's there's internal value to myself, right? I don't know the external value in its fullness of what that will be, and I may never. There may be something that's said on one. I'm hopeful that there's something that's said on one of those videos that it will impact somebody, just like things that I've heard, read, experienced have impacted me along my journey. So so the unknown is exciting, right? Like, what could God do with any of those things? Love it. So that's a little bit about how that feels, but it's lack of a better word, it's exciting to be done, right? And it's exciting because we don't have a plan. You mentioned something a little while back, actually, talking about getting stuff done. You mentioned like, hey, let's talk about these. I got these biblical verses and these different things. And basically our conversation came about like, well, let's finish what we started and then we'll move on because yeah, that's definitely something that I think that I can. And here's the end result of it. Hopefully, we got 15 minutes right now, so hopefully we can get started talking about the topic today.
Well, what
But
is
yeah,
what?
but with that, like this is the topic, right? Like
Mhm.
balancing, staying committed while balancing God, relationship with God, family, life, and then work, right? Like I still have to work, I still have my relationship ahead. So doing this, that gives me the chills a little bit to say it, right? Like that's it, right? That's what this value is. But today is
Oh,
about the
wow.
inverse. Let's talk about the inverse.
Yeah. So if we were not to be nimble, what does that look like?
Well, I'll read you what I typed out just before we jumped on. So again, the guardian value, the N in guardian is laid out as nimble, and that stands for a guardian stays committed to the customer while balancing what is most important: God, family, life, and work. And that doesn't mean, oh, I'm not doing it's balancing all that together. You stay committed, and when you're committed to the customer, all the rest of the work works itself out if you have the education, experience, and capacity to handle it. So I wrote, rather than nimble, the N would stand for nonchalant. A guardian makes all their decisions in the moment based on whatever seems to be the priority at the time, regardless of commitments made to their self and to others.
Wow. Can you read that again?
Nonchalant. It's the value, right? I'm nonchalant about things. A guardian makes all their decisions in the moment based on whatever seems to be the priority at the time, regardless of commitments made to themselves or others. So, what it would look like is that whatever I feel, think, observe, I'll just make the decisions in that moment. We have to make decisions in a moment, but the opposite of that is because it's very hard to stay disciplined and committed to your relationship. This is a we talk about this. The values that are written on the wall were created by life's experience, and then they're not something there where it's like, oh, if you don't live up to this, you're a horrible human. It's something to continually live up and refine, the culture through this value. It's something we could point at, put word to, and live out. So there are times when we have to make decisions in the moment. That's part of life based off of the information that we have, but it needs to go through, like, my pastor says, the grid of scripture, right? Like it needs to pass through it like a personal test. Like, is this in alignment with my relationship with God, my family, my life, and then work? So basically, if something rises up from a work standpoint, like, oh, the customer called and this thing goes on, like I have to, and I've done this is where a lot of this comes from. If I just cut off my family and I'm not coming to work, I got this to do. And there's times for that. We have to, certain times, but when it becomes all the time and always driven by internal feeling, thoughts, emotion, eventually those relationships are going to suffer and I'm going to suffer. And then whatever I was prioritizing above it never really gets done. So that's what I see, living it out. You're just always, I in the past have always been pulled towards whatever it was. And that coupled with insecurity, a desire to please people, not wanting to be judged negatively, want to be liked by everybody, that is like was a recipe for destruction for me. I thought, oh, and a self-deception that I always thought, like, oh, I'm out here, I'm doing good, I'm solving things, I'm helping people, but I didn't have any prioritization, and I don't believe I lived up properly or to the best way that I could as a disciple and Christian to be obedient to God. Um, I don't think that I know. So with that one, I say that God uses that stuff and still through that experience will draw me closer and propel me. That's his plan, I believe, based off of what I've experienced. And my wife, that's been challenged. It's been a challenge, trying to start a business, do these things, totally unaware of what I was doing. Not totally. I have some, I'm awareness. There's awareness, but I was not fully aware of what I was doing. And there was repercussions that I was not aware of and I didn't consider. And then so that's a challenge of that type of lifestyle. And ultimately, there's so many people, and especially as a business grows and life grows and relationships grows, there's more people to solve. So it's been a learning lesson to understand that I need to have a set of values that are based off of my priorities, and then compare the day's events to that and a plan laid out. So that's what it looks like. Living out the inverse is continually being pushed around from my perspective, and even now seeing other people that live that out and attempting to counsel them based off of my experience and knowing that I wasn't particularly aware of these things nor open to hear them. That was where a lot of my conflict came from, because maybe somebody would say something that wouldn't be in alignment with the direction that I thought was the right thing. So I become defensive. My guard would come up real heated, real quick, not listen. And so now I attempt to counsel those around me, especially in a work standpoint from sales, of how to navigate those things. But this is hard because that part becomes a challenge. How to navigate sales reps to not be, it sounds counterproductive. Don't just do all work all the time and forget those relationships. But I've also found that, like, through those discussions, I've gone so far over the years. I'm talking about over, years of timing, so far, like that. Then I lost and I forgot what makes us successful in the field. You have to have urgency. You have to be there, especially in storm damage. You have to be proactively prepared to be able to serve the clients right away. And there is some expectations that need to be set around your family, your lifestyle, and so they're aware, and then to live that out, but then to bring that back into balance, right? Like, so so the challenge that I had was, I think I went so far one way, I lost the drive, the passion, the excitement about what we do and how we do it. So then I had to, like, course correct the ship a little bit. That's how I would use the words. But all right, what we do, we need to be committed to the client, the customer, while balancing these things. And so my understanding of the value has the interpretation of it has evolved over years. So that being said, that's a bit on, what does that look like to be lived out?
Uh, 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 if if I don't keep my word, I'm like constantly reacting. It seems like a regression. I'm infinitely regressing. I wrote down. I don't know. This came up. Will I keep my word? It's like a belief in something greater than myself can be an accountability partner. Like without accountability, I might deceive myself to thinking that I'm better than I am. Um, can I keep my word without God? I think it's a paradox. I don't know if someone could, because they might think they can, but they actually can't. Um, like keeping the word. There's so much that has to go. There's you know knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no is not clear. It's not clear, and it feels like it's always the distinction between yes and no is there's a breaking point because I'm at my limits. Like I'm gonna always be at some level at my limits of my ability to say yes, my ability to say no. So there'll be inevitably some break or fracture in my character revealed in some break or fracture of a relationship, whatever context bucket that relationship falls into. I wrote down, I don't know if this is the opposite of what you said. I wrote down atheist, myself, vice, and theft. Now, like, I don't know if that's the atheist thing bothers me because I'm not trying to blanket, but like atheist could be a theist too. That's like cut off from their this is what I don't know. It's a longer conversation. If I'm just living for myself and I'm not able to have boundaries around my compulsion to react to how I feel in the moment and what I want to do, there are certain things I want to do that may not be best for me. That wisdom will show me what to do. I have to have some faith because I don't want to. I don't want to have to learn that the hard way. I only have 80 years to live. I've got to figure out a millennia of. There's a millennia, or many millennia of. There's so many ways to screw this life up. That's there are so many ways to screw this life up. I actually don't live long enough to be able to try all of them and have any meaning. So when I think of like the non-believe the believer, the non-believer believer, I think of like, self-centered and more likely to be attracted to consumption and vice and destructive activities that may in the end have at the end it doesn't matter, but it's not just me, there's other people, so I'm screwing everybody else's situation up too. And then the theft piece, even if it's not like stealing like literally with intent, it's like a theft in what I'm not doing that I could, that would be more helpful for others. um, and even if in the grand scheme none of it means anything, it's that doesn't it's not as super relevant because that's like a dogma, that's a faith too. Even if it just means how I show up for this show, there's going to be meaning for me or not. It'll be meaningful or won't. Those are some thoughts when it comes to this in a very granular, like easy level is like, or practical. Can I keep my word? Yeah. How freely am I giving my word up? What am I, you know, how much meaning is behind my word or behind my words that has a relationship with my actions? Now, I'm not saying that somebody has to believe in it's a maybe I don't, but what if belief was a consequence? What if faith was a consequence of faithful actions? Meaning someone could live a faithful life without a belief in their God. But if they did that, they may end up believing. So it seems like a circular thing. Could someone be faithful in their life without faith? Yeah, I think so. But they may end up, if they really are, they may end up believing because of what happens to them, because of how they're living. That's been my experience. I'm not a faithful person, but I've been doing better things and avoiding things that I thought would have poor consequences, and faith has begun to sprout from it. And I'm not a faithful person. And I think there's a lot of listeners here that absolutely their heart is closed to faith for all sorts of reasons. In the mere fact that they're comparing other people's faith walk to theirs, which would obviously, you don't want to believe in something when you think you're surrounded by a bunch of loser hypocrite idiots that are all jabbering around the same bullshit. Nobody wants to believe in that because they don't believe in the people. However, my challenge would be to those people, because this is what I've done for me, is to just try to live better. Listen to the lessons or think about the lessons. Use your conscience. And let the rest take care of itself. Don't focus on the belief. Focus on the life. And you may end up believing. You may end up want to believe, or now it's like not. You may stop trying to convince yourself that life has no meaning, or we're just flesh and bone and a frog's cousin. That's what my experience. Could somebody be a good person without belief? Absolutely. However, maybe they're not as good as they think they are because, well, they're separated from their accountability partner. Like, what is accountability? It's given or taken. It's outside of self. Responsibility is a reflection of self. So responsibility and accountability, they interact. It's like this relationship is me and my counterpart. I can be responsible, able to respond to conflicts relative to my counterpart's honesty with me, my honesty with them. They're holding me accountable through what they say, what they do. Accountability is given or taken. It's spoken and acted in relation to the individual. I'm the individual in my life, so I'm responsible. I'm able to respond relative to the degree of conflicts, external, the world. So responsibility and accountability, they interplay. So like, what if people's faith is that's their accountability, or that's the accountable factor. That could help somebody be more responsible on the deepest level. Or in the absence of that accountability, then the person would have to be, could they still be responsible? Well, maybe they could to a point, but maybe it's like it's like a cleansing of the palate, because the self-deceptions could like grow and build up on the individual level, where we deceive ourselves to think that we've got it all figured out. We don't need feedback, but we don't. That's how we need feedback the most. We're going to be accountable to someone or something. We're accountable for each other. Those are just the thoughts that come up when you were going on about all that. That responsibility and accountability relationship. If I look at it in a business context, the employee is going to be accountable to their boss. The friction of that will be relative to their degree of responsibility. However, the boss's degree of responsibility will have an influence over the employees. when the employees don't believe in their God, when the employee doesn't believe in their boss, they check out and they start going and doing other things that make their boss come down on them, challenging them to be more responsible, them to be, and often the boss isn't realizing that they're not being responsible enough to influence constructive behavior out of their employee. They've been separated from each other because of the inaction of that makes me think of like the mankind and God relationship. Like we don't believe, we have to believe in our company. We have to believe in our culture. We have to believe in our boss. When you talk about Jesus, I think like, all right, that's the the CEO. Like I believe in him or I don't. A lot of people don't believe in that CEO. They don't believe in any CEO. They don't believe in any company. They're an employee without a company. So they're an entrepreneur. But they might not even okay, they're entrepreneurial. It's just a metaphor. I mean, thought experiment. Accountability and responsibility have a relationship. We have a relationship with the employee. It's not just them and it's not just their boss. Both parties have a degree of responsibility and are accountable to each other. So when the boss stops listening to the employee's feedback, I guess that's the hard thing about faith, is that like we don't get any interaction with our boss, explicitly. We're filling out surveys and shit. We're not getting any information back. It's not a very healthy relationship from a business standpoint. Now, I guess the communication that you've gotten, or Christians, is the boss said the reason things are the way they are is because, well, I gave you my son. So that's about as much communication as you need to know what to do. Because in a boss employee-employer relationship, the employer has to give the reasons and provide the resources. So there's end relationships. So there's a bond between the employees and the employer. So like, if people don't buy into that idea that the founder of the company, sacrificed their son for their benefit as the employees, then they're not really going to be bought into all the stuff they have to do. Like the job description of the Christian would be to follow the 10 Commandments and to do other good shit. Excuse me. Create value. There's a lot of people in that company. Well, I guess they're not in the company. That's the whole point. They get fired. You're going to hell. You're not going to heaven. Heaven is like you get stock. You're getting shares, like you're a part of the liquidity event. There will be an event where we take this company public and you're going to benefit. You're going to benefit. Like if you don't believe, you're not getting stock. There's nothing. There's nothing you're getting for your labor. I'm trying to grasp it all.
Let me throw
like
something
people
in
don't
there.
believe in the company, Robert. That's the point.
Let me throw something in there. Let me throw one tiny part because
and then we got to have to do a part two. But this is a good segue to the next.
It is. Yeah. I hear you say, and I see your alignment. Your word picture here, thought experiment. But my argument is from my testimony that the concept that we need to just rely as an employee of the hierarchy here of Jesus, that we don't have to only rely on what happened 2,000 years ago with going to the cross. What's written and what has been experienced is that he's sending his helper, the Holy Spirit. So he's now not only and this, I say this to encourage you that the boss is with me every day, all day. The boss is is letting me know in my heart and my mind, hey, that's not the right way. Oh, this is the right way. Oh, this, then rewarding me. Then you made it. So number one, from a cultural standpoint, the boss is here. He's right here with me at all times. Number two, he has the best laid interest out for me. Doesn't mean I'm going to be rich and this and that, but he's there. So number two, I don't only have to rely on one incident that happened before, and then he went off to a town far, far away to go live in luxury. And if I only do what he said and have this blind faith. So you said the resources, the relationships, and the reasons. So you might not have to use all those, but you definitely use the relationships. So the other people around me. So he's also given a bunch of people this same directive, experience, and he's with them as well. And he's literally just like continually to show me like, we got this. I got this. The boss is there to say, I've prepared this way for you. And you used a term, I'm jumping out of that little thing to earlier. You said, you have to have faith. You have to step out in faith, and then faith grows, right? Like you were using it, not from an exactly, okay, you have to have faith in Jesus Christ as your savior, but
when I'm saying that's just a projection of my own walk. I'm using the word you, but I'm really saying
I get it.
My experience, I've done that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm in control of that. I could be following, and I'm not, I have to go.
I know you do.
But because it's bad to be, I already texted the person I'm late to, said, I'm sorry, whatever. That's not the right way to do this. But I want to at least say that was me speaking in the you as a projection of my journey. I have been called to act better, and by changing my actions, a feeling of belief has come through this, but I still don't believe conceptually. I'm still closed. My heart is closed. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid. I also think I don't want to feel stupid. And I think that a lot of people listening identify with this. Our resentment grips us and separates us from God, as you would put it, the eternal. And ultimately, I'm not as good of a person as I think I am. And we'll have to see you all on the next episode of the Culture Matters podcast. Robert?
Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to, on the next one, we can do like one of these things where it's like a duo. We watch what we said, we break it apart and talk about it a little bit.
Ooh, good idea. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.